Hello everybody, my name is Brandon Schollenberger and today I will be explaining how the consensus con job works. It starts with an innocuous statement like this one by former President Barack Obama.
They've acknowledged the planet is warming and human activity is contributing to it.
Whether it's a tenth of a degree or 10 degrees, it is unremarkable to say humans are causing some amount of global warming. But watch how easily this conclusion gets changed.
Some 97% of scientists who have written in peer-reviewed journals say the following: climate change is real, it is significantly caused by human activity.
Senator Bernie Sanders says global warming is significantly caused by human activity, not merely that humans are contributing some amount to it. That gives us two different definitions of the so-called consensus. But it gets worse.
97% of scientists the world over have said that climate change is urgent and man-made and must be addressed.
So now we have a third definition of the consensus, that climate change is urgent and we must do something about it. And since we have three definitions, it's natural to wonder which one is correct. But the trick is, none of them are correct. It's just like the classic shell game, where the trick isn't to keep you from guessing which cup the pea is under. The trick is making you believe that the pea is under any of the cups at all. To demonstrate this, let's take a look at one more clip.
A survey of thousands of scientific papers that took a position on climate change found that 97% endorsed the position that humans are causing global warming.
So humans are causing global warming. What does that even mean? Are they causing some of it? All of it? Most of it? Is it dangerous? Do we need to do something about it? What does it actually mean to say humans are causing global warming? The truth is, it doesn't really mean anything. It's so nebulously phrased, people can read into it and pretend it means whatever they want. And that was intentional. And of course, I can hear what you're already thinking. Why should we care what some politician has to say? Or why should we care what some TV host has to say? And the answer to that is actually really simple. All of these clips were taken from a video by John Cook. He comes on in the video after them to say,
study after study has found that 97% of publishing climate scientists agree that humans are causing global warming.
But this is all just rhetoric. What about the study itself? How did the authors come up with their 97% figure? To find out, let's check out the study ourselves. Specifically, let's check out the categories the authors assigned papers to. In this first screenshot, we can see John Cook discusses several different consensus positions. One is that most of the current warming is being caused by humans. Another is that that amount of warming is significant. And a third is that that warming is dangerous. What we don't see is a position statement for just saying humans are causing some amount of global warming. We'll get to that in this next screenshot, though. In this next screenshot, we see Dana Nuccitelli, the second listed author of the paper, providing the categories that they ultimately used in the study and explaining the idea behind them is it would allow them to provide two different consensus positions. One would be the percent consensus that humans are contributing some amount of global warming, any amount at all, while the other would be the percent consensus position that humans are the main cause of global warming. For the consensus position that humans are the main cause of global warming, he says only category 1 would qualify as an endorsement, whereas categories 6 and 7 would qualify as rejections. For the weaker consensus position, that merely that humans are causing some amount of global warming, he says categories 1 through 3 would qualify as endorsements, while only category 7 would count as a rejection. In this screenshot, we again see Dana making sensible remarks, pointing out that you do, in fact, need to be specific and clear about the definition of your consensus position, as well as making the point that if a paper just says humans are causing global warming, it's an assumption that that means humans are the main cause of global warming. In fact, he says it's a major assumption that another author got criticized for making. In fact, he even says you have to be specific about what the papers are endorsing or you'll get reamed with criticisms, and rightly so, in my opinion. Of course, in the actual paper, they don't do this. They don't follow his advice, the very sensible advice of, then in the paper we can say X% endorsed the AGW, anthropogenic global warming, theory, and Y% went further and explicitly endorsed it as greater than 50%. And in yet another comment, we again see Dana making sensible remarks about this issue, again stressing that we have to demonstrate what the consensus is, pointing out that a paper merely recognizing that anthropogenic global warming is real, or that humans are contributing some amount to global warming, does not mean the paper recognizes that humans are the main cause of global warming. And so again, he suggests the very sensible framework of saying there's an X% consensus supporting the anthropogenic global warming theory, and Y% explicitly put the human contribution at greater than 50%. So we can see an obvious and sensible framework was planned from the start with this study, with one of the lead authors going so far as to say they'd be rightly criticized if they didn't clearly and explicitly define what they were using as their consensus on global warming. Yet, his approach wasn't what was used. Why not? Why did the authors choose to go with the nebulous statement, humans are causing global warming, instead of the clear and explicit consensus statements they had planned on using in the beginning? Well, we can't know for sure because the authors have never told anyone, but the answer is kind of obvious. It's almost certainly the same reason the authors didn't bother to include the number of papers they assigned to each category inside their paper. The answer is, their results were really embarrassing. Let's check them out. To start, let's look at some results John Cook and his co-authors mysteriously chose not to include in their paper, namely, the number of papers assigned to each individual category. Category 1, of course, is the one we are most interested in. On your screen, you see it labeled as explicitly endorses and quantifies AGW as 50+%. Or in other words, humans are the main cause of global warming. Only 64 papers were rated as belonging in this category. That is 64 out of approximately 12,000 papers examined were found to say humans are the main cause of global warming. That's obviously a terrible result, and it doesn't get much better if we actually go ahead and work out what the percent consensus that would actually be. As you'll recall, the second author of this paper, Dana Nuccitelli, is the one who came up with the categories they ultimately used in the paper. At the time he did so, he explained how he thought the results should be analyzed and presented. The key idea was he thought 2 different consensus statements should be considered. 1, he thought we should look at the consensus humans are having some impact on global warming. And 2, he thought we should consider the idea humans are the main cause of global warming. I went ahead and did the math as he suggested, and it's visible on your screen. As you can tell, or as you can see, the consensus humans are contributing some amount to global warming has a consensus value of approximately 99.8%. In other words, it's almost universally agreed humans are having some impact on global warming. No surprise there. However, for the other consensus position, things get a little bit murkier. For some reason, Dana said Category 5 would not count as rejecting the idea humans are the main cause of global warming, but Category 6 would be. To me, this makes no sense. Both Category 5 and 6, both are for papers which minimize or reject the idea of anthropogenic global warming. The only difference is Category 6 does so explicitly, whereas Category 5 does so implicitly. To me, there's no reason that difference should change how we examine the question. However, since Dana did specify how he would analyze the data, I've gone ahead and presented his results as well as the results I think are much more sensible. Under Dana's approach, the consensus that humans are the main cause of global warming would only be about 72.7%. Under the approach I think is much more sensible, the value drops dramatically, going down as low as 45.07%. What this means is if we take the general approach Dana's proposed at the time he came up with the system they ultimately used in the paper, the conclusion we would draw for the paper is there's a 99.77% consensus supporting the anthropogenic global warming theory, and 45.07% of papers explicitly put the human contribution at greater than 50%. Obviously, those are not results anyone would want to publish. And so now we know why the authors did what they did. They knew they'd be laughed out of the room if they tried to publish results which said there was only a 45% consensus humans were the main cause of global warming. But at the same time, they weren't willing to accept that all the time and energy they spent on this project was basically worthless. So they did the only thing they could do. Something they knew was dishonest, something they said from day one would be bad, that it'd be completely inappropriate. And what that was incredibly simple. They took the idea that's overwhelmingly popular, that humans are contributing some amount to global warming, and combined it with the idea humans are the main cause of global warming, because they knew by mixing the two ideas together, they could get a 97% consensus humans are causing global warming, whatever the hell that means. And it worked. They became famous. They made money. They got popular. They got to publish more papers. Heck, one of the guys, the lead author, John Cook, got his PhD largely because of this work. And that, I don't know what more to say. There's a lot more wrong with this paper, and there's a lot more going on with the whole consensus debate, and I'm not going to touch on that. I'm also not going to tell you what to make of anything I said in this video. I'm not here to change your mind about global warming, the consensus, or anything else. I just think it is really depressing. A paper which was basically fraudulent has been tolerated, promoted, supported, and accepted for years and years, even though it is such an obvious con job. And, well, maybe it's just me. Whatever the case, I hope you found something in this video interesting. Take care, and I'll see you when I see you.